Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ. Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ on 102.1 FM, and this is Eco Radio, Australia's longest-running peace and environment radio show. We are taking over the middle of your day in the middle of your week airwaves, about a third of the way through the month.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. My name is Zack, and my pronouns are he, they, and we have a different No Idea girly on today. We're joined by V.
Hi, my name's V, and my pronouns are she, they.
Yeah, and you would have already known that because you didn't go anywhere between No Idea and now.
That's right, just zipped right over.
I want to start off by acknowledging and pay my respects to the custodians of the country on which we broadcast. We are located in the city Magingin on Turrbal Yugga Urupu land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Kabi Kabi and Jinabara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south, we reach Commonberry, Nagaragwal, Munanjali, Wanjirabara, and Yugambeh countries. There is no Crown land. I would also just briefly like to thank M from Mulaney, who just subscribed, so thank you so much, M. Woo! Today we're going to be chatting to Jutta Godwin, who is the organiser of Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count, and we're also going to be talking to her about an upcoming event regarding the family Lycaenidae, which is a specific family of butterflies, and there was going to be a workshop on that Saturday this weekend. Then we're also going to be talking about some of the news that have come out in the past week, including the CSIRO GenCost report on nuclear power generation within Australia, and also a bit sad, a bit of a sad topic about the Australian extinctions regarding non-marine invertebrates. Then, if we have time for it, I've written down in my notes we may have a brief snaking interlude, maybe. So snaking is when I go out looking for snakes, and I did that twice last week and found some snakes. So we may have a chat about that if we have time.
Want your band or brand to stick? Minuteman Press Fortitude Valley make awesome die-cut vinyl stickers and magnets. Maybe you need beautiful business cards, signage, call flutes, or promotional merch like pens, posters, and postcards. The team at Minuteman Press Fortitude Valley can turn your design dreams into reality. Independently owned and operated since 2015, check out their range of services at minutemanpress.com.au. Proud sponsor of 4ZZZ.
On the line with me, I have Jutta Godwin. So Jutta is the organiser of Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count, which is something that's the name that would be familiar to a lot of Eco Radio listeners. So today we're going to be chatting a bit about Brisbane butterflies, and then an upcoming workshop with a Dr. Peter Samson about blues and coppers, some of the unrated butterflies that we have here in Brisbane from the family Lycaenidae. How are you doing today, Jutta?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I think the place to start off with is you are the organiser of Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count. What kind of prompted your interest in them?
Oh, Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count is now in its 5th season, and as a very active environmental person involved with community, all of the Brisbane catchment groups have constantly been looking for a vehicle, if you so want, to convince other community members to get involved and to understand how the environment works. And butterflies are ideal because, for one, everybody loves them. And they are perfect as bioindicators, so they can tell us a lot about our environment, whether it's healthy or lacking. And so we explain along butterflies how to go about it and why planting the right things are important. It's a mixture of community engagement, of survey, collecting data, and hopefully influencing gardeners, bushcarers, anyone who wants to know, and making sure everybody understands it.
Yeah, so has there been an uptick in interest of Brisbane's butterflies since Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count began?
I would suggest so. As I said, everybody loves butterflies. We have done lots of community engagement events, most of all surveys, and these surveys were always conducted in a way that they were suitable for all age groups and all knowledge levels, and that is really quite important. So having fun as a family, as an individual, or coming with friends, is it. Going out into our lovely, beautiful natural areas is another thing. And yeah, we have had surveys where it was almost too many people. The biggest survey we had was at one point somewhere between 50 and 70 people, and that's a lot of people for one survey. And other surveys are conducted, like for instance currently because of the weather we have to do ad hoc surveys where it's very small groups going out, because we never know when the sun is out and when not, so we can't plan longer term. But people are looking for butterflies, and they are better understanding that nectar is not the only thing, that they have to plant for butterflies as well, which is one of the goals we had to achieve that. And yeah, I think Brisbane's community is getting more and more involved with butterflies and understands better how it all works together.
Yeah, you mentioned that butterflies could be used as a bioindicator for general ecosystem health. So if we were to, they can almost be used as like a proxy in that sense. So lots of insects aren't particularly well loved or liked, but yet still have very important roles within the ecosystem. But butterflies allow us to kind of like assess that ecosystem, that insect and ecosystem health, right, as a bit of a proxy? Yeah,
it certainly does. For one, if you have the right plants, you have the food for the butterflies in this particular, or their larvae rather. The immature stages need their native host plants, and many other insects go for these host plants as well. That's all perfect. So convincing people of planting the right stuff is it. Influencing, for instance, our bushcarers to do the right thing is it as well. The butterflies tell us a lot about, for instance, climatic changes. You may remember the years when figures came out from Europe where it said, oh, we've lost so-and-so, most of our butterflies, most of our insects, and everybody started saying the same about our location. However, then we had a year with lots of rain and subsequently lots of butterflies, because the plants which were feeding the insects were all doing really well, and so there was food provided for them. We, as in Brisbane Catchments Network, cannot say at this point in time whether we have lost butterflies or not, because it's we need a lot more years to evaluate that.
So where are you hoping that Brisbane's big butterfly count will go in the future?
Yes, most certainly. To make a proper picture data-wise, we need at least another 10 to, if you so want, an entomologist recently said 30 years before we can say anything. And that means to go through many, many seasons. And as long as there's interest, and the interest seems to be growing, as long as that is the case, we will do butterfly surveys and will continue our education work.
Yeah, that's the beauty of citizen science, I guess. It's the more people you can get interested into it, the more information you get, and gives us that broader sense of...
It most certainly is. I mean, it's all about grabbing the attention of everyone, and sometimes it just needs a tiny little trigger. We use nets when we do when we do surveys. A lot of people don't like that. However, we don't catch the big ones because they can be identified on the wing. But it is the tiny little butterflies which you are not able to identify to species level unless you see them close up and you can really see the distinctive features which they have on their wing patterns, in their wing patterns.
I suppose that flows on well into my next question, which is there's an upcoming workshop about blues and coppers with Dr. Peter Samson, which are from the family Lycaenidae, and I would assume they would be some of those smaller species that you're talking about there. But they're quite underrated amongst butterflies. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what they are?
Yeah. The blues and coppers and hair streaks make up the biggest butterfly family we have in Australia. Out of 420 plus butterflies we have in Australia, well over 150 are belonging to this particular family. So they make up around a third of all our butterflies. But a lot of people, because of their size and possibly because of their very often greyish, beigeish appearance, don't take any note. I've encountered many people who said, "Oh, I thought they were moths," and they are not. They're not. They are beautiful little butterflies if you take a closer look, but they are tiny in comparison. While you have, let's say, the orchard swallowtail, which everybody has on their citrus trees, can be up to 14 centimeters in wingspan. The usual blue butterfly is perhaps 3 centimeters or even smaller, 2.5. And the tiniest one among them all is only 1.5 centimeter. And that actually is quite an interesting one. It's very inconspicuous when you look at it, but it used to be not a common butterfly because it feeds on plants like karamat, which are not growing everywhere, Hygrophila and Angustifolia. But since we have a weed spreading all over Brisbane, which is called Discoristy depressa, excuse me, it's as common as the common crow. And the common crow has a wingspan of about 7, by the way.
We always appreciate extra info on butterflies on Eco Radio, so thanks for including that in. But what can people expect from the workshop with Dr. Samson this coming Saturday?
This workshop is particularly aimed at people who go on surveys.
Okay.
Or who want to observe and record in their garden or during a walk in the park or whatever. They learn how to identify. They get tips as to what to look for, how to identify. You always need your field guide in any case, but you learn how to look for particular dots and speckles and stipples and little bands on the wings, and the upper wing side usually is completely different to the underside of the wings. So colors are important. The little markings which the scales produce are important. And sometimes you can see little sex scales on the wings to distinguish between male and female, etc. And to have all of these together, you learn to look a bit more closely, because when most people who identify butterflies focus on the large butterflies because they are relatively easy, and then very often guess when it comes to the tiny ones, because it's all beige, sort of, yeah. And but learning how to look for the specifics of each species makes the difference. So that's part of it. And we do hands-on workshops where we have several. Well, all the participants are divided into teams, and they each have a box in front of them with, let's say, 9 species, and they have to identify those and then move around to the next box and identify the next lot, and the winner at the end gets a little prize, the entire team. And of course, Dr. Peter Samson, who is an entomologist, he's specializing on these currently. He has written a book which is being published early this next year, so we can't all wait for it to come out, and it features. He's focusing on this family of butterflies.
Excellent.
So that's very, very exciting to know. And he will give an introduction to the entire family as well.
Yes.
And help everyone to understand what they are, how they work, and how to distinguish them a lot better.
Certainly sounds like a worthwhile workshop to attend if you are interested in some of the local butterfly species that we have here in Brisbane. But where would you sort of like direct people who are looking to find out more about Brisbane's butterflies?
Brisbane's butterflies, the easiest is to go to our website. You have on our website, for instance, features like Butterfly of the Month, where individual species are introduced, and there is a diary of events on the website where we constantly add events for surveys, workshops, or other things onto it, and people can go and ask us there and can participate in anything we have. All our catchment groups are more than welcome to have other the general community participate in all events which happen.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jutta.
It's a pleasure.
Hope the event goes well this coming Saturday, and I'm sure we'll have a chat to either you or someone else involved with Brisbane's Big Butterfly Count at some point.
Voting for the 2024 Hot 100 is now open.
Who will make the top 100 tracks? It's your call.
Want to see your favorite tracks of 2024 represented in the countdown?
Jump online and head to hot100.4zzz.org.au and start shortlisting today.
Voting closes midnight December 26th.
That's hot100.4zzz.org.au. Vote now.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
What do we want to do now? If we wanted to say, if you want to text us in on 0420 626 733, you can talk to us about anything you want. You can develop that parasocial relationship with us. Anything, anything. We can say your name out loud on the radio, and it can be like a Twitch streamer being like, thank you.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah, exactly. It's one-to-one. But if you want to support community radio, which we obviously are from this lack of professionalism I've been displaying for the last couple of minutes, you can head over to 4ZZZ.org.au/support. You can subscribe for as little as $25 for a pet or under 18-year-old, which are more or less the same thing. Then you can also subscribe for a full amount, which is about $80, or a passionate $140. And then if you want to go the whole way, you can be a super sub, get your name up on the wall downstairs. Go nuclear.
That's $500. There are just a bunch of different sort of subscription levels you can go with. Pick your poison. And I think you can also give subscriptions, is that right?
Yeah.
So this holiday season coming up.
Izzy always says it's a nice little Christmas gift if you're like me and who are going to leave it to the last minute. There's also a subscriber prize for this month. It is a $300 gift card for My Beer Dealer on Alfred Street Bar and Bottle-O. So if you want a chance to win that $300 gift card, then you should think about subscribing.
Kick off silly season.
Yeah. Triple Z Hot 100 is going to be out on the 1st of January. So you could win that, then go and kick it on down at the bar while listening to the Hot 100 Triple Z. Would be pretty sick. But yeah, also like the returns on that, subscribing for $25 and getting a $300 gift card, min-maxing for sure. Yeah, go and do that.
Yeah.
Go and do that. So now we're going to be talking about the CSIRO GenCost report that came out about 2 days ago. And this was a report that aimed to investigate kind of like what is the most cost-effective method of power generation here in Australia. So it found that the most expensive option was that of nuclear power. That includes large-scale and small modular reactors, whereas renewables was the most competitive out of non-carbon emitting options. So things like gas and coal are still, renewables are like comparatively the same cost as those.
Yeah.
But obviously we want to be net zero by 2050. Yeah. And there are options for like carbon capturing regarding like coal and that sort of thing, but that invariably drives up the cost even further. So things like solar panels seems like the way to go. So if we were to measure the amount, like the power generation cost, it's in dollars per megawatt hour. So small modular reactors were a minimum of $400 per megawatt hour in 2024, while solar was estimated to be about $134 per megawatt hour in 2024.
That's pretty stark.
Yeah. And this report also outlined that it's at least 15 years before nuclear generation could be achieved in Australia. This isn't just like the building time, but also things like bureaucracy. And I think specifically they outlined in the report that it took at least 10 years for a country with a democracy level such as Australia to generate those nuclear reactors. So this sets it to 2040 when we could expect these nuclear reactors to be online at the earliest. And this is important when we're considering that, according to the Paris Climate Accords, we have to be at net zero by 2050.
Yeah.
So not leaving a whole lot of leeway there.
Have you seen much about what the coalition has said about the report?
Yeah, I did see one. I can't remember his name. I think his name is Ted, though. I can't remember his last name.
But Ted O'Brien.
Ted O'Brien, yeah. He's the Shadow Minister for Energy, is it?
I think
Climate and Energy?
Yeah.
He, I think, more or less said that that's not what the CSIRO told him when he asked about it earlier this year, which seems very...
And I think there were some comments calling into question like the impartiality of the CSIRO as well.
I think I was on behalf of Dutton, right?
Yeah, a little bit worrying.
Yeah. I think as well, one of Ted O'Brien's points was that they use like Australia's metrics rather than necessarily another country which has or can do it faster. Which, again, maybe we shouldn't be comparing overseas countries to our own, who all display different levels of systems, how things are operated at a governmental level, that sort of thing. And the reason why this report is important is because there was that debate introduced by the Liberal National Party of Australia saying that they plan to build 7 nuclear power plants around Australia should they be elected in 2025.
Yep. Yeah.
And we still haven't got, though, their cost estimate reports that they said would come out in due course. It's been 6 months since that announcement, and it kind of feels as though every week it's just been very, very vague with for the timeline of when it'll actually be released. For sure.
And there's also a bit of like a fractious relationship between the federal government and our state government in particular, with David Crisafulli saying, this is not what we would plan for Queensland. But yeah, remains to be seen what will happen there.
Yeah. I'm not sure where, I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not sure where I sit on it in terms of like the environmental costs with nuclear power. I'm not sure kind of like how that gets set up with the waste and everything. It's not an area I've researched particularly much into, but if we're just looking at the numbers on cost efficiency, then it doesn't seem like a particularly viable way to go at the moment.
A pragmatic way to spend those resources.
Especially when the Liberal Party is actively like championing. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but when the Liberal Party is actively campaigning or championing that kind of policy
for like cheap power generation as well, and then you get something that comes out like this that just says no, that's not how this works at all.
Especially within the sort of wider context of this is a race against time.
Yeah. Very interesting. That's all I have to say on that further then, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
This kind of like piece of news I want to talk about is regards the Australian extinctions of non-marine invertebrates. So there was a scientific study that came out 2 days ago that was titled "This is the Way the World Ends, Not with a Bang but with a Whimper," estimating the number of ongoing rate of extinctions of Australian non-marine invertebrates. And it is estimated that approximately 9,111 Australian species have gone extinct since in the last 236 years. And this is of, again, non-marine invertebrates, so things like insects, spiders, that sort of stuff. With this study as well, it's estimated that its true figure could be between about 1,400 and 56,000 as well. Either way, it's still a pretty significant chunk of species lost during that time. And I should mention that most of these species that they're estimating to have gone extinct aren't species that have been known to science as what are referred to as ghost species, where they've never been formally classified, but
They're like undescribed.
Yeah. But they've estimated to have gone extinct, which is sad.
It is really sad, and I think it's also quite scary when you consider that, you know, these invertebrates are often the unseen architects of our ecosystems.
Bit of a canary in the coal mine kind of situation, but the canary's invisible.
The canary's invisible, and the general public doesn't really know or care much about the canary because they're often not charismatic, and they don't get a lot of the funding or resources that go into conservation because of that. Yeah,
in things such as when ecologists have to go and do surveys, it's always the vertebrates that they're focusing on, not the little guys that often live in very cryptic environments and are hard to see.
Yeah, but can be integral to the healthy functioning of the ecosystem.
Yeah, like when we were speaking to Kit Prendergast, well, at least when I played the interview last week, who's the native bee expert, lots of like pollen systems have very, very specialized pollinators.
Yep.
They need like a specific species to pollinate them. So you remove one of those pollinators, they're Dunskies. The plants are Dunskies. So there's a lot of flow-on effects that the loss of one single species can have.
Yeah, these sort of intricate relationships between specific species, especially the specialist ones, that we don't see or know about until it's too late. Yeah, that's really scary and sad.
The 4ZZZ Hot 100 Countdown is coming up.
Start your new year off right. Join us at the Triffid on January 1st as your favourite 4ZZZ announcers count down the top tracks of 2024 as voted by you.
From noon till late, there'll be all-day games, tunes and chats for all ages to enjoy. It'll be broadcasting live and it's free to join in.
Everyone is welcome, including kids and four-legged friends. Bring some sunscreen, a hat and stay hydrated, because it'll be a hot one.
Catch the 4ZZZ team on New Year's Day at the Triffid for the Hot 100 Hangout.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
So on Saturday the 14th from 7 till 9 a.m. we have the Mookin-Bah Working Bee on 106 Greencamp Road, Wakerley. From 9 till 11 a.m. we have the Bushcare Working Bee at Moore Park, Indooroopilly. From 9 till midday we have the Blues and Coppers Workshop with Dr. Peter Samson at the Archerfield Wetlands Community Hub, Durack. From 9:30 till 10:30 a.m. we have the NaturallyGC Kids Scaly Reptiles, and that one is on the Gold Coast at Ormeau, which I believe is how you pronounce it. I always get a bit scared whenever I see EA and U all together in the same word. At 10 till 10:45 a.m. we have the Feathered Friends Shorebird Adventure at 31 Paperbark Drive, Boondall. Then from 10:30 a.m. till midday we have the Backyards of Biodiversity SEQ, a presentation with Ken Cross, and that one is at Logan Art Gallery in Logan Central.
So Sunday the 15th at 7 we have the Christmas Working Bee at 100 Jean Street in the Grange. Then from 7 to 9 we've got the Working Bee and Christmas Brekky, and that's up at Whites Hill Reserve in Camp Hill. And then from 8 to 10:30 we've got the Bushcare at Opossum Creek, which is appropriately at Opossum Creek in Lamandra Court, Brookwater. And then over to Tuesday the 17th of December, that's there's the Dunn Road Bushcare from 8:30 to 10 o'clock at 159 Dunn Road, Rocklea. And then later that afternoon, 3:30 to 4:30, there's the Sea Slug Survey in the Rocky Shores at John Laws Park at Burleigh Heads.
Yay, good job, V. Woo. That was V's first time at reading the Bushcare Roundup.
My first Bushcare Roundup.
Yay! And the Bushcare Roundup always signals that we are coming to the end of the program.
Yeah. It's been a good one.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed your time with us today, V.
I have. I love Eco Radio.
I don't know if Izzy will be back next week as well, so we may have to get you in for that one again if you're around.
Always happy to come in. And we've just got a text in from Daria saying, I love the Bushcare Roundup theme tune.
Yeah.
Not alone, Daria. Me too.
I think I figured out that that's Dave singing, but I'm still not entirely sure. It sounds very like Dave.
It does. Does. It's with us in spirit.
I haven't actually asked him if it is him yet. But yeah, that's it for Eco Radio this week.